impressive.
Oh. So we'll go right back into the morning ritual.
The morning ritual. Okay, so we'll rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
Just in case, because we don't know where that
we
got
had
cut
a blip. It stopped recording.
Yeah, so, okay.
It happens all the time.
So what we were thinking about was that rather than a workout, it's more of a ritual. And so he will go out and stand in the wind. So I'm imagining like a cloudy day, you know. So let's all just like make this vision for ourselves. He's in the breeze. His hair is billowing. His brow is slightly furrowed, but in a very pondering facial expression. But he's not worried. He's just thinking.
Yeah.
Right? He's really present in the moment. And he whispers to the wind, "What do you need me to do today?"
And he waits and listens for a response. This deep desire to be connected and on the right side of the universe leads Keanu to like take a handful of sticks and twigs and leaves and put them in his mouth and chew it. But not swallow it. That would be gross. But like really just chunk it up good and like mushy.
Because the earth is also going to tell him what it needs.
Yeah, he says to his mouth full of mulch.
Yes.
What do you want me to do?
What do you want from me?
Yeah, and he spits it out and sees if there's any messages.
There's usually a message.
Yeah. He heads to the river. He bathes himself in freezing cold water. He scrubs himself with rocks.
He certainly does a hair flip. You know, one of the ones where they take a photo and like mid-hair flip where the water is just spraying majestically.
Yeah.
Oh, he certainly does that.
Yeah. And as he flips his hair and sort of lets the water cascade down his body.
Scrubs himself with rocks.
Yeah. He lays on his back and he floats with the water for a little while.
Yes.
And he says to the water,
"What do you need from me?"
He really needs to know from all the elements what the universe needs from him. Yeah. Oftentimes it's going to be basic things like do some laundry, pick up some groceries.
But all that he needs to do in terms of laundry, I think maybe we need to like dive into that just very briefly. Keanu doesn't do laundry because he doesn't need lots of clothes. So he simply bathes in his clothes with the rocks.
Yeah, scrubs them with a rock.
Scrubs them with a rock.
I'm imagining him changing out of one pair of perfect gray sweatpants into another pair of perfect gray sweatpants.
Yes.
But maybe he's only got about 3 pairs of them and he just keeps them fresh.
He keeps them fresh, but I also think that probably more so than jogging pants, I think that, I mean, that can be his lounge wear, but when he goes out into the elements, he certainly wears leather pants that he like handcrafted himself.
Yeah, like nice sort of like brown tan sort of like leather pants, just natural leather pants. And they're tied with a thong because he doesn't want to besmirch their genuineness with a zipper.
Right.
So it's just like little grommets and a thong, and he sort of pulls it tight and sort of cinches it in.
And there it is. And then he's ready for the elements. And that's when he goes out, and that's when he says, "What do you need from me?" That's when that happens.
Yeah.
I just wanted everyone to be like really aware of what he actually looks like.
We want this to be accurate and true. So as he's having his morning ritual, really trying to connect with what is needed of him today. He probably sort of glances up to the big house, as he calls it, the actual full large home.
That he doesn't reside in because he doesn't need that.
No, he doesn't need it. It's too much for him. But he bought the property and it was there, so he didn't want to put it to waste.
Yeah.
So he's probably got people, artists, and maybe like underprivileged teens.
Yes, I was going to say he definitely has a camp.
Oh yeah, it's just a space for people to be themselves and find themselves.
One might say that they're able to lose themselves there.
Yeah.
And find themselves
Lose
there.
yourself to be and find yourself. And so he looks up. Now the big house has a series of flags that they can raise and lower if they need to communicate with Keanu.
Semaphore of sorts.
Yep, 100%. And if he doesn't see any of the emergency flags, he knows that they're cool. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
He goes about his morning.
Yeah.
If he does see an emergency flag, he rushes right up there.
Yeah, he definitely on his horse.
Yeah.
With his wolf by his side.
Because he might need to do some like nonviolent communication and really facilitate a honest dialogue between people who are having a problem. Maybe he has to give somebody the Heimlich maneuver.
But I mean, we can get into that. We can get into the health and safety on another episode.
Yeah.
I think that maybe
I think you're right. Health and safety should be a whole different thing.
Whole different episode. So we're just going through like a daily routine.
Yeah, a day in the life of Keanu.
Yeah, but this is a dreary day.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to just. I think the challenge in this time is to always only focus on like the beautiful sunny days. I think it's also important to acknowledge the windy, blustery, rainy days. And who handles it better than Keanu? Probably no one.
Yeah, because we're all in this together, and this sucks.
Yeah.
But on a sunny day, you sometimes forget that it sucks,
Yeah.
and you feel normal. But it's those gray, blustery days that really bring up the fact that you're trapped, and it's very difficult to be us right now.
And that's when we need Keanu the most.
Yeah, so let's think about Keanu on one of those gray days. Like, he is grieving the fact that he doesn't have full freedom of movement.
Yep.
He is grieving the fact that he can't see all the people and hug all the people that he loves.
Because you know what he loves more than anything is hugging people. Strangers, people that he knows.
Yeah.
Animals. Quick question. Is he allowed to embrace the animals that I know he is friends with? These wild creatures, he's certainly friends with them.
I assume that other people don't have the types of relationships with those animals that Keanu does, so he's not at a great risk. And sometimes, a bear or a wolverine or a moose, they just need a hug, and he doesn't want to say no to them.
Yeah.
So he probably does hug them.
And that's probably fair social distancing, like that maybe there's like a closed loop between them and him and the animals, so the animals all agree we won't hug any other humans except you. So it's like the safe quarantine.
Yeah. They're fluid bonded.
Yes.
He and the animals that he hugs and kisses just normally.
Just the normal right amount.
Yeah.
To feel supported and not creeped out.
Yeah, like a friendship kiss between Keanu and a moose.
That's so good.
Yeah. So he probably checks in with the animals in the morning.
By touching on their heads, just like that.
Yeah, he just sort of...
Oh.
And if it's wintertime, he probably burrows into their dens, if they're hibernating, and just checks in with them to make sure, just checks their breathing.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're okay.
Checks their vitals, as you do.
Yeah.
He's also an animal doctor.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
But as the spring comes around, he's got to help the animals find mates so that they can fall in love and make new animals.
Yeah, because, that's the one thing that I think that's probably the most pivotal thing that Keanu does, is the role that Keanu does, is the fact that he is animal matchmaker for his area, and he's responsible. I think you can look this up, that Keanu Reeves is responsible for the revitalization of the habitat where he lives.
Yeah, because oftentimes when he asks the elements, what do you need from me today? Yeah. The message comes back, there is a lonely puma. Yeah. And then he's got to go and help that puma find a mate.
Yeah, and since he's really good at that, he'll chat to the puma, of course, just telepathically, of course, and kind of dig under, like, why is it that you're having such a hard time finding a puma partner?
Yeah, because oftentimes the puma wants to blame the other pumas for what is wrong with them.
But there's one common denominator.
Yeah, there's one common denominator, and
right?
It's that puma. And Keanu helps in a respectful way for the puma to realize the role they play in their own loneliness.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, and
is it a safety thing? Are you afraid of getting hurt, puma?
Yeah, and the puma ultimately takes responsibility for themselves and their actions and their emotions, and that looks really sexy to other pumas.
Oh, I was just gonna say that. There's nothing sexier than a puma who knows themselves.
Yeah, and that's how Keanu helps the animals find love, takes responsibility.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground in the Keanews today.
Yeah, I am comfortable leaving his afternoon for maybe another day.
I think that's fair. I think we've reached up to like lunchtime.
Yeah.
And I think this is a multiple podcast episode.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Keanu is connected. Keanu is giving.
Compassionate.
He's taking care of animals and humans and himself.
And yet, with all those animals and humans there, he is quite solitary.
Yeah.
He chooses to be, doesn't he?
Well, it's quarantine, and he doesn't want to have a more social time than the average person, because it would seem unfair.
God damn that man.
Thanks, Big K.
Thanks, Big K. He's just really nailing it. I think we can all aspire to be like Keanu. What would Keanu do?
Yeah.
And that's what I encourage our listeners to take home with them today.
Is that the name of this podcast?
What would Keanu do?
I know
or
Keanu's is really good.
It's really good.
But what would
The
Keanu?
Reeves report.
It's not as good.
That's a little bit more, yeah.
Like very
Keanu's
pointed.
is good, yeah.
Keanu's, or what was the other one we just said? What would Keanu do? Maybe we'll brainstorm, we'll spitball.
That could be like the hashtag for like Keanu's. Like we could like spitball what would he do during each session, but I don't know if that's what we would call it because we're not answering the question. We're pontificating the question.
I think that's as good as enough as an answer.
Oh my gosh. So everyone in the podcast who's listening can feel there's tension in this room based on the naming of this. This is such an important podcast. There's tension based on what should we call it. But we'll come back next time.
Yeah, tune in next time to find out more of what Keanu's afternoon holds and what we're going to call this podcast.
Brilliant. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.